Hello everyone and welcome back to another dannphan discussion video. And today we're going to be covering a very topical discussion, I think, is the idea of art and politics. Because in the last few recent years I've noticed a trend of people being openly political online and then spinning this to sell their comics. Obviously the big Comicsgate push that actually created a lot of comic YouTubers in some cases, is kind of what sparked the big comic crowdfunding boom that happened. And you could argue that it wasn't trying to utilize politics in order to sell comics. You could make the argument that being anti-social justice is separate from displaying specific politics. But there are plenty of channels that were very overt with what politics that they had before selling people on this comic or this story that they're trying to do. For example, the whole Rippaverse. Young Rippa is very upfront about his politics, very transparent so that everybody knows. There's also plenty of grifters out there who get a fan base based on their politics and then just want to monetize said fan base, even if they don't really like comics that much. But why are people doing this? Well, there's a bunch of good reasons why this happens, and I think one of the primary top 10 reasons definitely has to do with the current state of YouTube. The one thing that YouTube is always pushing, no matter how messed up the algorithm is, and it is quite messed up. But the one thing that they're always consistently pushing is trending topics. Specific topics that people want to hear a lot of different perspectives on. And this definitely ties into political videos, because whenever some sort of news comes out, there's going to be many different people making videos and commentary on that news. The same exact thing can be said for the social justice movement and the anti-social justice movement. They are political in nature, even if you don't have to be on a specific side to agree or disagree with the social justice movement. The basis for it is in politics. So whenever a new social justice-y type of media comes out, that becomes a trending topic because so many different people are giving their perspectives on it. So YouTube will incentivize you to make anti or pro social justice videos, and not so much for apolitical, staying out of this topic, recommending a new topic type of videos. Now, there are people who do want to purchase from individuals that are politically aligned with them. I mentioned it before, but I did actually go to BasCon, which is obviously meant to be a convention for people that are politically aligned with one another. And a lot of them are independent writers that were selling their books there. That is the main poll, is that a lot of self-published, fellow-based writers are going to BasCon. And to be blatantly honest with you guys, we did sell more books there than any other normie convention. And there were not a lot of people there, but they were buying. Oh, they were buying, all right. So I'm not going to deny that this type of niche does work, but I'm going to call it what it is, and that is a niche. I don't think the majority of people really want politics to take the forefront when it comes to selling a piece of entertainment, be it a comic, a book, a movie, a TV show, or anything. Of course, I did do a Twitter poll based on around this topic not too long ago. But basically what I said is, I've always thought a creator's politics were none of my business, but what do you think? Should a writer, artist, any kind of creator, be upfront about what their politics are? The options were yes, I need to know, no, I don't want to know, or it doesn't matter either way. And of course, the majority of people were saying, no, I don't want to know. But it is very close to the doesn't matter either way option, which used to be, I think, the majority of people at one period in time, is that most people would not care what a person's politics are, regardless of whether or not they were upfront about it. Nobody really needed to hide what their politics were because the political pressure was not at peak height as it is today. But now it seems like most people are defaulting to not wanting to know about somebody's politics at all. And I think this does have to do with the whole social justice versus anti-social justice movement that has been happening in most entertainment. A lot of people just kind of don't want to see any of that. There's a lot of people who don't want any part in that war. They just want entertainment where they don't have to think about the creator's politics. Now, if the works of art were not completely slathered with politics within it, but the creator was upfront about what their politics were, maybe this poll would see much different results. Maybe more people would side with the doesn't matter either way option. And a lot of people kind of echoed this thought. Nerd Wonder at the top saying, it's cool if you want to share your politics, but don't make it your personality or blasphemizing anyone that disagrees with you. Matt from Udon saying, feel free to reveal your politics. Don't shit on your customers whose views are different. Omega Dez saying, I'd rather not know, although usually the people who really want people to know about their politics have a hard time not making their entire personality about it. I don't care if they're not obnoxious about it. It's that person's choice. I don't care, just entertain me. So long as it isn't at the forefront, it's fine. But I feel like most people just consider it the norm these days that if you're upfront about your politics, you're going to make it the forefront, even if it was not previously, you know, the selling point of your comic, you will make it as such. Maybe part of this does have to do with the fact that you're incentivized to participate in a lot of the political pressure online. I can't really tell you for sure. There are definitely pros and cons when it comes to being upfront about what your politics are, alongside with selling your comics or any type of creative work that you have. I think one of the pros, as far as like a buyer's perspective, is that you get transparency. If you see any kind of bias in the writing, you have some context for the bias. And you have that context beforehand, before getting into the book and then being surprised, like, oh, that's weird. And from a writer's perspective, in some cases might prevent people from misinterpreting your writing. We have a lot of misinterpretations here in America when it comes to manga that gets released over here in English. And I do think that you establish a certain amount of trust between you and your buyer. You establish this idea of, hey, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna try to manipulate you, I'm gonna be upfront about what my politics are, and if I have any bias in my writing, you'll have the context for that bias and you can decide how you feel about it. Now, none of my comics really have had any overt politics within them, at least as of recording. I wouldn't necessarily be against creating politically based comic books in the future. I think political parody is all up to the person who wants to make it. But me as a writer, it just doesn't strike me as particularly interesting enough to make it exclusively what I create. Most of the things I create, I want to be story and character driven, as opposed to trying to prove particular politics that I have, or prove a point to some phantom reader out there who I'm trying to stick it to, you know? I'm very much against writers using their writing as a form of revenge. And I think when your main motivator is spite, it usually turns out to be some of the worst things that you've ever written, especially to people who have no horse in this race. So while I'm not against anyone doing political parody, I do think most people who do it don't do it very well. Now, me myself, obviously, I've been pretty upfront about the fact that I'm generally anti-social justice, and a lot of the modern writing that I read in comics is pretty trash. I don't like it at all. So yeah, I do offer my own comics and the comics that I publish as a substitute for what I perceive as being modern trash. But there's never actually been a point in time where I've sat down with my subscribers and just explain to them where I politically lean on each and every issue. I just don't really see the point talking about politics on a channel that's supposed to be mostly revolving around comics. And I want to somewhat take control of the channel, even if it's not successful on YouTube, even if it would be more successful if I did talk more about politics, I don't want it to drift off the road and then become just that content when I'm not particularly interested in making political content to begin with. Now here's another spin on this whole topic that I've heard other people discuss, and that is the idea of subverting from within, which, you know, sounds like some sort of manipulation tactic or something, but when you dive in deeper to what they actually mean by that, really the idea is to make people like you and your writing first and foremost, and then, you know, wait to reveal what your politics actually are. Wait until after you're well liked or you're well successful, and then you can be upfront about how you feel about certain political stuff. And the basic idea around this is that you're allowing people to judge you based on your personality or based on your work and how well you've done throughout the years before they start judging you based on your politics. In general, maybe it's a nice idea, maybe it's a nice thought. Does it actually, you know, work out this way? It's a little bit iffy on that, because we do know plenty of well-liked, successful people out there who were, you know, hashtag canceled the moment that they reveal even the slightest bit of their politics. There are still outrage movements, even if a plenty likable person comes out and says what their politics are. Not justifiable, you know, outrage movements by any means, but it does happen. So there's definitely a lot of nuance and what ifs when it comes to this type of topic of, hey, should creators be upfront about their politics? Should they utilize their politics to get a specific type of audience to read their stuff? At the end of the day, I'm gonna side with the idea that we should put our creative work first, worry about the political stuff as an afterthought. As I've said before, I've backed plenty of comics that were all on board with the anti-social justice movement online, and just because they were anti-social justice does not mean they were good writers, and does not mean that they made good comics. And it certainly does not mean that I'm buying an issue too. There are exceptions to this rule, but in general, I think that the one thing that causes customers to stay by your side is not your politics, but rather your talent. So focus on becoming talented first. Focus on creating good product and good art out there, because I think that should be taking top priority in a lot of people's minds. But those are just my thoughts. Definitely let me know your own thoughts, your own takes around this topic down below in the comments section. And absolutely, yes, I will shill. Go check out burningstarcomics.net if you'd like to see some comics that I've created, as well as comics that I've published throughout the years. We'll have more merch on the site soon. Yes, we have merch, we have original art, we have posters, we have all good stuff. Thank you for watching and sharing your own thoughts. Like the video and subscribe if you dare see more videos from me. And I'll see you next time, guys. Bye!
Program restart.